Hello, my name is Hitendra Patel. I'm the Managing Director of the Global Innovation Management Institute. I'd like to welcome you and join our vision and our mission of the Institute. Our vision is to democratize innovation everywhere. In organizations like universities or corporations, in high schools, in governments. And the idea is to unleash that creativity across the globe. Our mission is much more simpler: to train 1 million people worldwide, certify them, and unleash their creativity and their problem-solving skills to target any problem on this planet. The Global Innovation Management Institute has got certifications for individuals, for corporations, as well as for the government. And the whole idea over here is through certifications, people have the right to practice innovation. Through certifications, we create a roadmap for how to get better and improve as we get level 1 certificate to level 2 to level 3. We are today working with the Dubai government, the Qatar government, across Colombia, in Brazil, in the United States, helping these institutes and these countries become better in terms of their innovation journeys. We're working with corporations, giving them roadmaps, how they can go from level 1 to level 2. And we're giving certificates to individuals as they go from level 1, 2, 3, and 4 in terms of how they can actually innovate themselves, how they can innovate in teams, and how they can innovate in a company.
We've worked with several innovation consultancies, and we found the GIMI methodology to be able to help us democratize innovation very quickly across large groups of people.
Curriculum isn't enough anymore. We need to really be finding ways to expand the school into the community and bring the communities into the school. And design thinking and the GIMI impact model is what's going to help do that. I think that we really need to start looking for authentic, experiential learning opportunities for our students. And this is a really great framework that teachers can use that makes it easy to do.
The value that we see being part of the GIMI program is that we can offer capability building for students, for professionals, for corporations, and that's really exciting to be able to create a language that can help everybody connect with what strategic innovation is.
Today we've got 25 countries who are partners of the Global Innovation Management Institute. We'd like to see all 195 plus countries becoming part of this institute. So we are looking for training partners across the globe. We're looking for university partners in every one of those countries so they can be part of our network. And we would like to see companies and corporations around the world all embracing the certification programs of GIMI. And as a result, we can target any problem and we can solve any problem. Join us on our mission through certificates to give people the right to practice and a roadmap of how to improve.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to our weekly exploration of innovation. I'm Marilla, your host for today. I'm thrilled to have you join us as we continue into the journey, basically, of emerging trends, best practices, and global innovation activities. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from Sara Husk. Basically, she is the principal consultant at Hype Innovation, and I would like to spotlight her and share a little bit more about her great and impressive background. So Sara will talk today about Cut Through the Chaos, a practical guide to innovation metrics with ISO 56008. I'm really happy having this topic today because we get lots of questions from our members, our alumni about, okay, how should I basically create innovation metrics? How should I measure innovation? It's such a hard job and all this. So hopefully Sara will shed some light into this topic. She is a principal consultant, as I mentioned, at Hype Innovation, experienced innovation practitioners of 20 years and a great innovation expertise. She is the member of US Technical Advisory Group. Probably you are known with this as GIMI is a member of it. And she is actively working into developing international standards for innovation. As part of Hype Innovation team, she has been helping organizations, 2,000 Fortune organizations frame their innovation outcomes into tangible actions. Also, she is helping them to drive and to innovation and to prepare them for ISO certification. She has extensive experience in different topics around innovation, like open innovation, employee engagement, continuous innovation, breakthrough innovation. Really great to have you, to have Sara on board. Let me break the ice with a question before we get the conversation flowing. So, Sara, you are going to talk about very important issue that any innovation manager is wondering, right? How should I measure innovation? How should I show to the shareholders or board of directors the value for what we invest? So, what was the trigger for you to start studying and probably creating, right, innovation metrics?
Yeah, that's a great question. So thank you for that. I think our work at Hype and throughout my journey in innovation since about 2006, that has always been a key question. It's also been a big roadblock. What really has started me down the path that I'm going to share with you today is additionally the work that I've done with the United States Technical Advisory Group. We've actually just globally put together a standard, a guidance standard for effectively measuring innovation. And I think it hits on what you were talking about, from what do we intend to do strategically all the way through to what is the value that we achieve. I think that's the key question. Why are we even doing this? And I think hopefully what I have to share today will help illuminate that.
Thank you for sharing that, Sara. It's a great way to start a conversation today. And now, without further ado, let's dive deeper into this topic with Sara. Sara, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. I prepared a few things just to guide the conversation today. Can you just confirm you can see my screen before I get started? Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. All right. So, what I think I'd like to start with, if it's okay with everybody, is just let me give you a brief overview of who I represent today. So I work with Hype Innovation, as you've mentioned, but then I also work with the US Tag, and I'll cover both of those. So Hype first, basically, we are the largest innovation software and service provider now. And what we do is we really help our clients scale their innovation end-to-end processes. That can include things like, tech scouting, trend watching, open innovation, employee engagement, and, continuous innovation programs. So we're really proud and excited to help all of our clients with those kinds of things on their journey. And I thought that as we get started, I'm not sure if everybody knows, much about the ISO standards coming out, those kinds of things. So I thought a little bit of context, and then we'll move into the metrics themselves. So in doing some research, we really do have a bold perspective on all of this. We think that there's great value for all of our clients to adopt ISO 56001 quickly, and we're really guiding our clients in that direction. A couple of main reasons and benefits to that. So it's about creating a system of innovation. And I think that is unfortunately lacking for a lot of us. It also helps develop a common language, which we know can be a barrier for everybody. And then it also supports speed and decision-making for complex technologies like AI that everybody is focused on right now. So how did we get to that particular conclusion? Let me share a couple of things. So one of the things we asked ourselves is, great, so ISO's out. Does anybody adopt the ISO standards? And what we learned is, yes, they do. Absolutely. And so you can see, looking at quality and environmental management systems, you can see the adoption curve of both. So right now there's over, almost 1.5 million quality certificates, and getting close to 600,000 environmental management system certificates. So saying that, we're just saying, okay, this comes out and it does get adopted, so there's potentially an impact. So of course, then we had to ask ourselves, Well, what is that impact? If everybody adopts it, do they really get anything out of it? And so, because these standards have been out for quite some time, there's a lot of research from ISO, of course, with their own case studies, also from a lot of academic research, that kind of thing. And the answer is yes, there is a market impact. And this is a good quote that I'll just share with you. Companies that have not sought certification actually do have a decline in asset performance, productivity, and sales, while the companies that adopt typically don't have those kinds of issues. So we really think, to kind of summarize all of that, this is going to have a pretty substantial impact on all innovators and everybody working in innovation. We really hope it elevates innovation too. So just a quick couple of things to share. There are some common misconceptions as well around innovation and the ISO standard, like it can't be standardized. We're not standardizing creativity. It's the process of innovation that should be standardized. But some of the things that we hear are, it's too rigid. It's going to be, I must do this. That's not quite the case. Doesn't fit our unique context. It's too bureaucratic. It's only for big companies. But what I'd like to share with you is actually these standards were created by innovators for innovators. So it's a group of industry practitioners, academic thought leaders, all organization sizes are represented. So the small mom and pop shop can adopt these as easily as a large global company. And then all standards are put to a global vote as well before they come out. So it's not just one perspective. It is a very, very broad global perspective. And so just to tell you a little bit about who those people are, I'm on the U.S. Technical Advisory Group, as I mentioned, and really what we represent the U.S. so that businesses and consumers have a voice in creating these global standards that affect them. And so the wonderful thing is, I want to share with you is this is a volunteer organization. So if you want to apply to be on the technical advisory group, you can. It's just some benefits for you. We are working to professionalize innovation, but it gives you an opportunity to shape the industry, build new skills, connect with other innovation experts, which is always amazing. And it also gives you an opportunity to kind of see what's coming. So the standard that I'm going to walk you through today has actually been around or was released in April. We've been working on it for the past few years. And so you get kind of that preview of what's coming, which is also kind of nice, especially in innovation. Just one last thing. So metrics is what we're going to talk about here in just a second, but this is actually a whole suite of standards. And so it's everything from fundamentals and vocabulary, and the ones in blue are available to you today. The ones in gray are coming. But you can go, from fundamentals and vocabulary to how do I assess my organization for getting ready for ISO, innovation partnership guidance, IP management. There's all kinds of things that I think can really benefit most, if not all, organizations. And then, of course, what we're all really excited about is there is a requirement standard coming out, and that'll be out probably sometime this fall. And what that's going to allow people to do is have ISO certification against an innovation standard for their innovation programs and systems. So I'll give you a little dad joke. So what do you call a dashboard with no data? A ghost story. And I've got tons of dad jokes. If you ever want any, just connect with me on LinkedIn. So I think, though, what we really want to say about this is there are a lot of misconceptions, I think, like what we were talking about, and confusion around how do we measure this stuff. And what we see in a lot of our work with clients is there's a lot of measurement of activity. So how many hackathons did we run? How many ideas did we get? Those kinds of things. But where it's disconnected is, and what did we get out of that? And so we'll walk through the framework of the standard for how to help with that. We also hear people say things like, well, isn't there just something that everybody measures? Can't we just do what Apple does? What about Google? Can't we just adopt their stuff? And I think what we'll find is it's not quite that straightforward. And I think as innovators, you probably know that. So what I'm sharing with you right now is just I shared the link here on this slide. And of course, I'm sure we'll share the slides themselves. But if you go out to ISO's website, what you're going to find is that that you can get a preview of what's included in 56008, which is innovation metrics. And what I really wanted to draw your attention to, and where I think this is of value, is if you look here, you can see that this standard focuses on a lot of things, but the core crux of it for innovation operations are the process measurements, initiative measurements, and portfolio measurements. And so you can also see an image in their preview as well. And so the innovation process measurements, what those are the steps that the ISO standard recommends that you have within your innovation operations. So everything from opportunity identification to creating the concepts, validating the concepts, developing solutions, and then getting those final solutions out into the market. The innovation initiative measurements, those are really about like the individual projects, usually doesn't have to be, but could be a project, a product, a service, those kinds of things that you do over time. And then the innovation portfolio measurements, that strategic collection of all the different initiatives and that kind of thing. So there's guidance in here on all of those levels, which I think is terrific. And it does apply to your own unique situation. So the other thing to share with you is the team that put all of this stuff together really wanted to offer practical, tangible advice. And so there are several annexes in here. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on some of this. And those annexes, if you expand this again, you can look at all of this stuff as well. You do have to purchase the standard in order to get all of the information. But it's really structured so that if you take a look at some of these things, it's really examples of key questions, indicators, and metrics for going through these processes, innovation initiatives, and innovation portfolio measures. And so let me give you just a little bit of a framework perspective on that as well. And so the way this is all laid out is looking at the definitions, the key questions, that's a framework system to, ask the right questions and make sure that we're looking at the right things. The indicators are giving you specific information on a state, condition, or impact. And then the metrics themselves, they're defined measurement for measurements, method, and scale. And so if we take a look at all of those things, the interesting part is you can start to bring this to life. And this is actually what you would do within your own organization. And so just a couple of quick examples here. Let's say one of the key questions we wanted to answer for ourselves was, how quickly are we getting our innovations into the market? That's a big one that people ask, right? Like, how are we getting our AI out there before our competitors get their AI out there? So one of the things that as an innovation professional you might want to look at are all of the things that are a little more controllable. So maybe I want to look at the speed of the innovation process from when we define the concept that's entering concept validation all the way through to deployment. Those tend to be a little more project oriented and something that we can measure. So maybe we look at something like, what is the elapsed time within and across validating concepts, developing solutions, and deploying solutions, the back end of that innovation process. I could also look at things like, what is the handover time between all of those process steps? So once I have a validated concept that's ready for a solution to be developed for it, what's that time frame look like? Are we, do we have roadblocks in there? We don't have enough staff, all of those kinds of things. What that helps us do is to really hopefully identify gaps, roadblocks, and improve the whole process over time. And that's really what we're trying to get out of systematized innovation. In fact, I think the big thing here is if you look at the, how all of the ISO standard is laid out, what you're really looking at is, so for the context of the organization, you've also got, so what are the external and internal issues coming in? You've got leadership, you've got all of the innovation operations, but the key here is really around this piece. So what you're asking yourself is, great, we have a strategic intention. We're putting things through our innovation operations. And how well are we doing? And I think that's really what the innovation standard for metrics can have a huge impact on. And so just think about that for a second. So if we go back to adoption and benefit that we talked about earlier, your company is going to be out there competing with companies who are figuring out how to measure innovation, how to find their gaps and roadblocks, and then how to make improvements. And so again, that's part of the reason that we say this is something for all innovators to pay attention to really think about how can we leverage these standards, to get better, faster, et cetera, and really give ourselves a professionalized innovation core competency. So I think that's huge for all of the innovators. The other thing that we do, so I'm not sure if everybody out there has any kind of system or anything along that line, but one of the things that we really do is we support our clients with thinking through some of these kinds of things because they capture all of that data on a platform. And so if you think about some of those things, what we can look at are things like a health check. So can we improve idea quality? Can we boost collaborative engagement? Like, meaning, can we get a lot of thoughts, and eyes on this issue so that we can bring in all the diversity, make a very rich concept, think of the pros and cons. And so that's how those measurements of activity and engagement and those kinds of things within those early stages can actually be pretty important, but they're not the whole story, as you guys know. So we can also look at, like we talked about, cycle time analysis, those roadblocks, speed of decisions. I think that's going to be one of the big things and the big wins that people do in the early days. And then we can also, of course, look at the value. And again, that is the most important thing. What is the tangible value and how do we compare that intention versus the actual value that we get out of everything? So again, just one way to look at this. There are many ways to look at this. And so before we get into some of the conversation that we're going to have too, and I'm very excited about that and to hear your thoughts and your questions, what I want to leave you with is think about those benefits of ISO 56008, because it really gives you that flexible framework approach that we talked about. It also gives you notice that there was a leadership, portion in there. It gives you examples of measurements for soft skills. So things like culture, which is hard to measure, Diversity, what is the impact that our leadership team is having on this? What's the working environment related to innovation? It also supports discussions with your stakeholders. So one of the things that I think you probably run into, and I know we do as well, we have a lot of opinions on what innovation is, what innovation means, and therefore how it should be measured, how we look at the value, that kind of thing. And it seems like every time we get a new leadership group in the innovation program or process, there's more discussion about, well, this wasn't right. We should be doing this. We should be doing that, all those good things. So this is really going to support those discussions with your stakeholders. And it'll help you identify and define all of those things as well, which again, I think will be a huge benefit in systematizing how we go from that strategic intent all the way through to the value. The other thing that I will say is if you would like to talk about the US tag at all, or if you have any questions or those kinds of things, I am more than happy to help and support. So you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, learn a little bit more. I always enjoy and appreciate talking with other innovators, and especially about some of the benefits I see coming with ISO. Just to give you a couple of early reads, we actually just kicked off another guidance standard, and this one's going to be around innovation competencies for innovation management. So each one of these standards does include the concept of measuring and improving. And so there will be more coming around how do we measure some of those softer skills and competencies and those kinds of things. So hopefully that gives you just an overview of the value of the new standards coming out. And, the next step really is if you're interested in this, like I said, the ISO standards do have to be purchased, and I can't share all of the deep detail, just these very high level concepts. Otherwise, they vote me off the island, and I'd rather stay on the island. So hopefully that's helpful. And are there any questions or any topics that anybody wants to explore a little further?
Yes, Sara, before moving to the Q&A session, let's check this promo video about Innovation Awards, which is the activity we have launched lately, and the deadline is September 8th.
Okay.
The Global Innovation Management Institute, the world's largest certifying body, is thrilled to announce the GIMI Innovation Awards. With a rich history in innovation training and certification, we're here to recognize the best of the best in the innovation world. The GIMI Innovation Awards celebrate outstanding innovation initiatives from organizations and individuals across the public, private, and social sectors. The awards feature 12 categories, 7 for organizations and 5 for individuals. Categories include Best Innovation in the Private and Public Sectors, Best Social Innovation, Best Innovation Framework, Best Innovative Education Program, Best Startup Ecosystem Support Organization, and Best Science and Technology Parks. For individuals, we recognize the best innovators in the private and public sectors, Best Social Innovator, Best Innovative Entrepreneur, and the prestigious Long Life Trajectory Award. Winning a GIMI Innovation Award brings recognition, prestige, and credibility. It sets you apart in your industry, offers global media exposure, and serves as a benchmark of success. Submit your entries by September 8th. Finalists will be notified by September 30th and invited to pitch their innovations online. Join us in Barcelona for the award ceremony on November 6th and 7th, held alongside the Smart Cities Expo World Congress. We have a jury of distinguished experts including the chairman of GIMI, Ronald Jonish, founder of IAOIP and the International Journal of Innovation Science, Brett Trusco, professor of strategy and leadership at the University of Laverne, Louise Kelly, lead on private sector partnerships at United Nations, Io Kong, ambassador for digital affairs for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, Nella Leosk, innovation expert and partner at Roland Berger, Stefan Gackstatter, professor of innovation at the Booth School of Business, University of Chicago, Robert C. Wolcott, and ISO US Vice Chair and Committee Member Harlan Bennett. Apply now to the GIMI Innovation Awards and showcase your achievements on a global stage. Join us in Barcelona this November to celebrate and recognize innovation. Thank you for watching. Follow us for more updates.
Okay, thank you very much. We invite all of you to apply if you see fit in any of the categories. Now, in the meantime, regarding questions, please feel free to write in the chat any question you want, or to open your mic, raise your hand, so we'll give you the opportunity to ask any questions. So let me start with the first question, maybe that I see here in the chat, Sara, and I have plenty of questions on my own as well to try to illuminate more on this topic. So first question is, what type of AI innovation benefits do you see will be ideal good practice standards related to ISO?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so the AI benefits, let's start just with this standard, because I think there will be standards with regards to good practice for AI as well. In fact, I think some of those might be underway. I do anticipate that Europe will probably take some leadership on that. I'm already seeing countries starting to have those conversations, resolutions. You probably are too. But let's talk a little bit about how ISO for innovation helps. So let's think about just a couple of the big chunky problems that we have with innovation as a system and a process. So a lot of the things that we see is people struggle with what is the strategic direction we're going for. It's just, let's go find some AI. Let's go find some of this. Let's go find some of that. And there does need to be some exploration, no problem with that. However, one of the things that ISO talks about is what is the context and the intention of your organization. So what's going on economically, politically, socially, et cetera. So that gives you a bit of a North Star, and it makes your decisions stronger, more aligned when you're talking about something new and crazy like AI. Similarly, it gives you a structured way to think about, how do I take an AI portfolio approach? How do I take an AI initiative approach? And it doesn't have to be just AI. It can be, any big new technology, any kind of change, all those kinds of things. So, and then it also works it through a specific process and also recommends decision-making criteria. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, we have seen, it's the loudest person in the room, or no, I don't like that. I don't think we should do that, because up front, we don't have that strategic alignment. So I could go on and on about benefits, but I think those are some of the biggest ones, because it's coming at us so fast. We can make good decisions. And then hopefully on the other side of that, you get your AI services, products, bots, whatever, out into the market first.
Thank you, Sara. Actually, let me be the voice of many innovation managers and professionals. You know that they are asking usually several questions. So I'll ask you short questions and expect like some answers about that. You start tackling a little bit about alignment, right? So how can we ensure that our innovation metrics are closely aligned with overall business goals and strategy?
Yeah, that's great. So there are two parts of when we're talking about the ISO standards, not just the metrics, but just in total. So it's something called context of the organization and something called leadership. And actually, just so you know, quality has context of the organization. Environmental management systems have context. So they're all aligned. So they're meant to be used together as a system. The other thing, though, is with context of the organization and leadership, it does say we really need a foresight insight capability. And it also says, hey, we need, and if you want to be certified, and again, we're going to be competing against people who are certified, you do need to have a vision, a strategy, a policy, and all of those things help you set that context. And so then once you're working with your initiatives, portfolios, et cetera, you have that North Star because it's built into the standard that you must have that. Hopefully that helps. I'm a long talker, I know, really.
worries. It was great. Another question, which is usually an issue for innovation managers to justify also to the board and all this, is what metrics should we use to balance short-term innovation gains with long-term innovation sustainability? So how you can handle both?
Yeah. And you're right. You do have to do that. You really, we were talking about this yesterday in the tag. It's like you have to, build the car while you're going down the road. So you're absolutely right. I think you have to take and nobody is not innovating today. So if I could kind of give you a path, here's what I would recommend. Keep doing what you're doing today. Don't stop that and start something new, but go through the process like you're going to get certified. So you can do a very smart current state analysis and see where are we lining up. And what that's going to do is kind of give you that longer term roadmap. It doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing today, but you've got your current state analysis so you understand your gaps. And then you can continue to improve on those kinds of things. And that's something you can do fairly quickly. The other thing that you could do is doing that current state analysis against the standard. There are things that you could probably do immediately, like, do we have a North Star? Do we have a vision for innovation? Do we understand how we want to get value out of this? If not, start there. That might be a great place to this is what we want to do. And so those metrics are going to align with what you ultimately decide. There isn't I wish there was a silver bullet metric for all of us to use. I really do. But your own organization will define what value means. Is it social value? Is it money? Is it people value? All those kinds of things.
And how can we, again, a question which usually we encounter is, how do we quantify the ROI of innovation, especially when dealing with long-term and breakthrough innovation?
Oh, that's a great, right? That's a great question. So what ISO says it is, and this is where it's not a, it's not a strict, you can use whatever methods you want. There's a lot of people who are using innovation accounting. There's a lot of brilliant stuff in there, because what that is more focused on is, great, so how do we learn? How do we, what is the value of what we've learned? What is the value of the mistakes we've avoided? And so it can help you go through that process, because ROI, that's going to be at the end. You don't want to measure that ROI along the way. You want to measure learning, you want to measure potential, and you want to refine your potential. You may start out with a validated concept before it goes into validation, and it says, this is a $10 million idea. You may validate it and it may be a $10 idea. So that's how you've got to measure those kinds of things.
Great. And basically, can you give us like 3-4 meaningful metrics, how we can really benchmark our innovation performance against to other competitors or industry leaders?
I think that might be a little bit of a slippery slope. And the reason that I say that is, who are you going to benchmark your innovations against? Are you going to be able to benchmark innovations against Apple? I don't know. Are you going to, it depends on your organization. Where I'd recommend you go instead is look internally first and see, what is your current benchmark? Are you measuring anything? Does it roll up to the board? Does it roll up to people's performance evaluations? Like, how is this process working? Benchmark where you are today, and then use those standards, best practices. Again, there's a lot of great folks out there working in innovation and innovation metrics, and have them help you build something that is effective for you personally and your company.
Great. And another big issue and question mark, it is when it comes to intangible aspects of innovation, right? Which is a little bit difficult to measure. So what do you recommend in terms of measuring, like employee creativity or cross-functional collaboration and contribution across departments?
Yeah, that's great. So, and here I go again to, there are so many experts out there. For example, there is a company out there that what they do is they help you identify in your organization, first of all, define what is a culture of innovation. Does it mean, risk tolerance? Does it mean creativity? Does it mean, what does it mean? And so then you come up with some metrics around that, and then actions that you can take to improve that. And I think that's really the process that you've got to go to, rather than saying there is one metric for employee creativity, and measuring creativity. I'm not sure that that's going to give you a great indication of, your downstream impact. But there's a lot of information out there and a lot of great companies. Again, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, that kind of thing, I love connecting people. So with experts. So please feel free. I don't mind sharing. I've run into a lot of great innovators in my time.
Great. And you kind of mentioned a little bit that there is a tendency of measuring innovation activities rather than innovation impact. So what are some other red flags that indicate our innovation metrics are driving in a way innovation theater rather than real impactful innovation?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So I think it really does come down to the value that, you've always got to stay focused on the value, and that has to start with, what are we trying to do? So, is it that we are trying to, change our industry? Is it we're trying to serve our customers? But what is it that we're trying to do with our innovation system? And then how well did we achieve that? I think that gap, and why there is a lot of like the innovation theater and that kind of thing, if you really think about it, some of the teams that we work with have full-time employees who do nothing but measure, innovation and other things like that. If you are the person that's responsible for running the hackathon, and that's what you do, but you're not involved in or have a path for understanding what the value that comes out of that hackathon is, you'll never find it. That's a common problem that our teams run into too. It's like, I don't have the bandwidth to follow up with every single idea, every single hackathon, every single brainstorming session. In the ISO standards, one of the things that will also really help is it does consider resourcing. Do you have adequate resourcing, time, people, money, all of those things to achieve your outcomes? That does need to include measuring too, because that's a real job.
Great. And pretty much you mentioned a little bit, of course, that there is a huge debate out there in terms of measuring in general innovation. And it seems like the other side of the medal, right? Why should we measure innovation? And in that sense, we really need in companies to encourage risk-taking and experimentation and all this without punishing failure, right? So what innovation metrics you think, based on your experience, can encourage this?
Yeah, that's great. So especially right in there, what you're talking about, I think, is in kind of that third step, the validating concepts, because you've got to do a lot of measurement. Did it work? Did it not work? That kind of thing. What you really want to focus on is learning, speed of learning, new knowledge gained, our ability to share that information with everybody else so they don't go down that same path, that kind of, and waste time and effort and all that good stuff. So those are the kinds of things that I would focus on. Even if I think the concept of validating concepts is where that failure piece could really be elevated. And that's just the part where I have a great concept already. It comes in so that we can say, should we go on with it? Should we kill it? Or should we pivot and do something different? That piece could really unlock a lot of those kinds of metrics, I think.
Last question from my side. How should we evolve our innovation metrics as our company grows or as market conditions change?
Yeah, that's great. And I think that I love this question. And again, the standard has some answers around this, which is also really helpful. So it's all about continually improving and finding those gaps. And so systematically, if we're always looking out there to see where should we go next, and we're always measuring each step and the outputs and the value we achieve, that's really how we're going to get through that process. It doesn't mean you have to have, huge dashboards, huge scorecards, that kind of thing, especially as you get started. Probably fewer metrics are better because you can always add more. But if you're trying to, just get all kinds of measurements, metrics, that kind of thing, you might end up not being able to actually sustain that.
Great. And Sara, basically we have companies, for example, that GIMI has certified as organizations level 4. Level 4 for us is what we call ISO plus. Level 3 is ISO compliant, level 4 is ISO plus. And we have kind of companies like Dubai Police, RTA, which really are at the forefront of innovation when it comes in the Middle East. But one thing is really being the best when it comes to innovation internally and as a company. But second is another level, which is the impact that your company's innovation has in the ecosystem, right? Your partners, customers, society. So how do we measure the impact of the company on the broader ecosystem?
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. So in the ISO standards, there is consideration for how do we, collaborate externally? How do we, what expectations do we set? What is it that, that everybody benefits from? But there's also a guidance standard that is more closely aligned with partnerships and offers guidance on how to select partners, how to think about what's mutually beneficial for everybody. And that those partners can be, supply chain, could be, others in your economy, that kind of thing. So that can give you some really good advice and guidance on getting towards what is the overall impact. I think the other thing too is when you're talking about like country level impact, that kind of thing, a lot of what we see, and I'm sure a lot of what you see too, it's social. And so what are the things that you've done to maybe align with the SDG goals for the UN? And can you measure the impact that you've had against those? Maybe you're already certified in environmental management systems. That's a good indication. Innovation and environmental management systems, I think they should just be hand in glove. We need to innovate around all that stuff. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir on that, but if you can, make that case there, I think that is really beneficial. And then especially when you get to that level of maybe abstraction, stories. We do need to tell our stories. How did we come up with this? Humans love the stories. So those metrics, if we can use that to guide us towards telling a story, I think that's helpful.
Great. Since we have time, let me address the last 3 questions in the chat. Let's say, I think Marcus is asking, how would you see would be the best way to approach IP innovation, creative business within any organization?
Oh, love that question. And I know somebody that could help you with that. There is a guidance standard for IP management as well. And again, it's how do we set up the system? How do we think about that? How do we make sure that we're capturing everything that we're doing so that we can express that value and make sure that we're valuing our company with all of those kinds of things as well. So yeah, there's great guidance on that too.
Kind of you answered this question, but Jose is asking, what are some common ways of measuring an innovation efficacy on a business objective?
So I think what you're saying is like if the business objective is like, let's say it's cost. Every organization wants to find ways to reduce cost. So as you're looking at, so our goal, our intent is to reduce costs by, I don't know, make it huge, make it like 5% of, or something like that. You're going to need innovation to do that. And so then you can start to come up with, okay, well, how can we innovate around that? And so maybe
Sara, you are Sarah, there is a fraction of a second that you are breaking up.
Oh,
But
okay. No.
microphone, it doesn't happen.
Yes, no problem. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, maybe did you hear the example working on cost?
Yeah, just a fraction of a second.
Okay, no problem. So maybe we're doing something like working on cost. And so that's our intention. And we need to be able to measure, well, did we reduce costs? Yes or no? And so that's a fairly straightforward one with incremental innovation to walk through. And so you're just going through, okay, we had a hackathon, we ran a challenge, whatever we did to go through that process, and then you can measure that along the way.
Great. I like actually the comment of John, what gets measured gets managed. And that's really, I would say one of the biggest insights in general when we talk about metrics in innovation. And Jose is asking, and I think this is a really practical question. So because usually the board and others are asking, what's the best way to convince your colleagues who might not be as innovation savvy that measuring innovation is worthwhile, or investing also in creating these metrics of innovation?
Yeah, that's great. I think you do have to make the case. You're right. I wish we didn't, but I think you do still have to make the case for innovation and measurements. But I think the other thing is even just starting with some common language elements. So, and I think where people get hung up on measuring innovation is they think you're measuring human capabilities like creativity and that kind of thing. So I think you do have to help them understand we're actually trying to measure that process so that we can get better, so that we can beat the competition, be the first to market, make the biggest, whatever that is. You've got to help them understand all of that and maybe think about this as not a human, you can't measure my ability to be, well, you might be able to, I don't know. But I think measuring somebody's personal creativity, I'm not sure that really adds a lot of benefit, but improving the system, I think it will.
Great, and I see another question that Viola has posted here in the chat, but I'll tweak that a little bit. Pretty much what she is asking is like global companies, how can global companies ensure that the ISO compliance extends across all international operations, basically? But also we have seen, Sara, for example, when it comes to large companies, that they have lots of subsidies, inside a country, outside a country. There is a big detachment when it comes to what the corporate sometimes does, or when a business unit might be very successful creating sort of processes on innovation and metrics and all this, but the other subsidies are lagging behind, and there is no common language, no common process, and all this stuff. So what do you do to create this sort of common language across the subsidies, across operations, and more than just ISO compliance, I would say?
Right. No, that's great. And I think that the nice thing is there is a pretty well-known path for those kinds of things, because quality had to go through this, environmental management had to go through this. So one of the things when we're talking with teams that we start with is, what are you already certified in? Who did that? So that we can leverage some of what you already know in your organization, but the innovators may not be connected, and why would they, with quality as a standard. So what typically happens is if you have to start with one group and then certify others, or get other, manufacturing facilities, office locations, whatever it is, certified, that's fine. There is typically some kind of training and awareness as a first step that just has to happen. People, just like the conversation we're having here, why is there even a benefit to innovating? Why does anybody care? And again, if I'm, building widgets in a factory, I may or may not be thinking about that. So I need some education on those kinds of things.
Thank you, Sara. It has been great. Before leaving to the last takeaway, to summarize, Sara is advocating to standardizing basically innovation, creating innovation practice. She belongs to US ISO Technical Advisory Group as GIMI belongs. GIMI in itself is a certifying body, which the mission is to standardize innovation. It doesn't mean basically harming business creativity, basically, or creativity of people or risk taking, but it means not leaving innovation to the hands of only a bunch of creative people inside the company, but streamlining that, making it sustainable basically inside the company, having a process to really make sure that you get all the ideas coming from different innovators inside the company, and you make sure you basically drive these ideas to commercialization, align with the strategy and goals that the company has, and making sure that you are recognizing, rewarding anybody in the company so they can come up with the best ideas and really watch for innovation. Sara, what's the last takeaway that you have for this group, which is a diverse group of innovation managers really driving innovation management systems inside their big corporations, but also we have professors, experts that are and consultants of innovation?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's great. There's so much out there. I would say, having been in this industry for a while, I really think there are a few things about the ISO standard that are going to be game changing. So I would say take a look at those if you can, and really start to leverage those things, because I think that's going to be a tipping point for professionalizing innovation. And so for all of the people that are, consultants working in this, all of those kinds of things, we've been wanting that for years. I think it might be on the horizon, at least I hope so. So that would be my final takeaway. And thank you so much for your time. I just want to say that too. I know everybody's meeting or days are packed, so thank you.
So you will we will, as always, put the video of this GIMI think tank in YouTube as well. We'll build an insight report thanks to Vanessa of Sara's speech today. And now you know where to find Sara. You will find her also in our website, in her LinkedIn. You have an expert when it comes to innovation metrics and ISO standards. Thank you very much for the time, and see you next week. We might do a break as it's summer vacations and everybody wants to have a break, but we'll see the last week most probably of August. We'll keep you in touch for everything. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye. Have a nice week.
Thank you. Take care.